All right, we're doing it.
So we got to fight. And I threw him out of the house.
He said he shot himself, and I was in complete disbelief.
Find something that'll make you smile and laugh every day.
Seeing the mother and father holding the baby.
Enter as strangers.
What?
Bonus.
Bonus episode.
Bonus.
You're getting the best, not the best of Jeremy and Eric. You're getting
You know what I just realized?
unfiltered, unplanned, uncut. What?
He had said it a moment ago before we were recording this time.
Right? This time around.
The first episode, we each shared a story, right?
Yeah.
Because you had just went into a story a moment ago.
Are we not?
And we don't do that.
Are we not talking about ourselves enough? People tell me that. I want to hear more about you. It sounds. I hate even saying it. It sounds so stupid.
Yeah, maybe just this. Yeah, this.
I feel like I'm telling stories all the time on other people's podcasts. You know, like when we have a guest in, right? You're telling stories.
Not really. Not stories. I
Well,
mean,
tell a story.
I guess they are stories, but
Tell a story. I mean, you just told a story on the last podcast about.
What were you just talking about on the last recording? Oh, the first time you heard your own voice.
Oh, the first time I heard my own voice on a recorder.
That kind of story.
Yeah. Well, tell a story. You got a story to tell?
No.
What do people?
I'm sure I do.
What do people need to know about Eric? Anything?
Doesn't really matter, does it?
They don't need to know anything, but people want to know more about us. I'm legit saying that. That's been commented to me numerous times. So
and how do you answer that?
My answer to them is this: is like, just keep listening to the podcast. You'll get to know us really well. Naturally, just take longer.
Are they more interested in knowing why you're you, though? And those are the stories from the past when they say that to you.
Yeah, why you're you.
And even if they're not, I guess, big, monumental, developmental stories of, this, and all super insightful and shit, even though pretty much all the stories probably have their skin in the game, but just those anecdotal stories of silly times, being a stupid kid, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I totally get what you're saying. Maybe that's what we need to do is like, I'm just sitting here kind of trying to think of an interesting story I have. That's why I can't wait to have Bill on, dude.
That dude's got
the best, craziest, most unbelievable, like truly stranger than fiction in most scenarios, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're book quality stories.
I mean, I'm having a hard time with thinking of any story that's that caliber like Bill has.
The memories.
And he's got 50 of them.
I know. I don't know how. He's the story guy, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Or he's just had an interesting life. Maybe I haven't had an interesting life.
I don't think he would call it interesting.
Tell me an interesting story about, I don't know, high school. No?
Sure. What do you want to know? I guess, like I've got to be able to relate.
If I
to
had you come in, if you were a guest
something.
and I said come in with a story, does one come to your mind that you would find as an interesting story?
What kind of story do you want?
Stop turning it back on me.
Because there's. No, I can't
So,
say. I
basically-
can't say there's any one story. I mean, there probably is, but I would have to,
See,
put some thought into it.
I think what we're unintentionally illustrating here for people listening is that it's really not as easy as you think to put these mics on, and especially for us, I don't think.
Talk about yourself.
Because we're constantly here doing it to tell a story about ourselves.
Which story did I tell in the first one?
It was about
mudding
out in the Bronco and stuff like that. Or was it a Bronco?
Yeah.
Bronco, yeah.
Yeah.
And what story did I tell? I can't even remember.
I can't say I do either.
Yeah, I can't remember at all. I can tell you that it's funny because like when Jim was on, he was recounting, or when Adam was here, he was talking about the McCollum and that time. It's one of the funniest. I mean, it's a you had to be there story, but it's one of the funniest things ever. Dude, I'll tell the story that you were at my wedding. Do you remember it at all? Over there in the city building in Kaysville?
Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
Do you remember Nate's best man speech?
No.
Nate's the worst. Hey, sorry, Nate. That was the worst best man speech ever. It was so embarrassing. I mean, it was a good speech and whatnot, but it wasn't like in the movies. That dude tells a story about me while he's giving a speech that was so embarrassing for me at the time. And I'm like, what is he telling this story for? But this is the story. So I should have told the story and then told what Nate did. But being down at the McCollum, speaking of the McCollum River, fishing down there. We'd go, it was me and Nate and a couple other guys, maybe Jared or Darren or something like that, maybe Brad. I don't know. And we were kind of in this waist high water, right? And the river made this big bend. And Nate and whoever else were in front of me fishing, and they had gone around the bend. And so being a dumb teenager and the way, especially the way that I was, I take my shorts off, right? So I'm naked now, okay? And I'm just running in crotch high water towards them, right? I don't know, screaming something or whatever. And they started cracking up or whatever, right? And Nate's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, and I said, "I'm manning it." That's what I'm manning it. That became this thing called manning it. So at my wedding, Nate tells this story, but he tells it in way more detail, where he's like, I turn around and here comes Jeremy manning it, and his little thing is swimming in the water like a fish, right? So he's telling this at my freaking wedding, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, dude. But what's funny is that wasn't funny. I remember thinking at the time, I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't thought of that story in years. You know what I mean? Which I trip on sometimes is that these memories that we have, where we don't think about them for years, but when we do, they're so vivid and still right there.
That's the whole thing with memory. That's why it's so hard on the spot to go tell me a story, because I tripped on it when you said, "Do you remember my wedding?" Initially, I thought, no, not at all.
And then
you
boom,
said
boom,
city
boom.
building, and the whole picture is there. I see
boom.
everything now, how it was and where I was standing and all that. So you got to pull it from the file. It takes that.
Yeah. That's why conversations are better approach, because they trigger things.
Yeah.
Because as I was telling that story, I started thinking of another story. I have so many McCollum River stories.
Spent a lot of time down there.
Yeah, I'm not sure they're really pivotal. You want to hear a hard lesson I learned one time?
Yeah.
I have two things. I will tell. Okay. You got to think of something to tell.
Serious,
This is real talk. Okay. There's only a few people that know this story. I'm going to tell two stories. If you heard our last podcast, the one about a relationship with yourself, this is two stories that I'm going to bring to light.
You're stalling. Yeah. You're having a hard time.
Okay. So I'm just making a note here so I don't forget.
Another
quick.
stall tactic.
Nope.
Thinking this out.
Nope. There's a reason that I'm doing this. Okay. So when I may have told you this story, but this is a story I don't share with people because it's so embarrassing. And I was only 15. Just moved to Woodbridge. Okay. And just moved into a new ward. Didn't really have any friends. Went to church a few times. Remember meeting and kind of making acquaintances with the Stone family, with Brad and Jared. Of course, Jared was younger at the time, so Brad was a friend, and he was having a bunch of people over at his house. And he lived, if I were to guess, as the crow flies, probably 2.5, 3 miles away from where we were, right? And I really wanted to go over there and whatnot. And at the time, nobody could give me a ride over there, and it was in the evening. So I get on my bike, which was a Huffy that had
naturally
bright orange forks and handlebars, and I think it was a blue body or whatever. So I'm going over to Brad's house, but for some reason, and here's a kite string to follow back that I never even thought of, but for some reason I was so embarrassed. The idea of rolling up there on my bike was so embarrassing, right? And I don't know why, because what else am I going to be riding around? I mean, I might have only been 14 at the time. So I get halfway there, and Brad lived across from Lodi Lake, which was this man-made lake park area. To avoid the embarrassment of showing up on a bike, which I could have just rolled up on a bike and knocked on the door. Nobody would have even really known I rode a bike.
Did anyone make fun of you at first for this bike, or was this just another one of those weird things you
Brand
did to
new
yourself?
to the neighborhood. You did it to myself. I stashed my bike in the bushes, right? And like probably a quarter mile or so away from Brad's house at the lake, stashed in the bushes up on. You remember when you would drive from Woodbridge around the lake and it had that berm up,
Yep.
and there's trees and there's a trail up there. I stashed it up there somewhere in some bushes. So I somehow got a ride home. I don't know if Dad came and got me or whatever. And I remember I got picked up, and I don't know how I got around the whole "where's your bike" thing. But as we're driving back home, and I look to where my bike is stashed, and I see a dude pulling it out of the bushes right as we're driving by, and he's walking with it. And I'm just like, oh shit. There goes my bike. And of course, I'm not going to be like, hey, Dad, there's my bike.
Right.
Or whatever. Or you know what? I'm thinking now, they might have taken me home. They gave me a ride home.
Who did?
The Stones, like Brad's dad or something like that. And I seen my bike. And I'm like, I just lost the only wheels I had, because I was too embarrassed to pull up on a bike for no apparent reason that I can at least associate now. Mm-hmm. So that's story one that speaks to my personality of that anxiety. Oh, man, this is going deep. Here's the bigger one. Ran cross country in high school for 2 or 3 years, and I was pretty good distance runner. Okay. Cross country is a team sport because it's scored with a team, but it's a very individual sport psychologically speaking. Mm-hmm. And I used to have this huge problem, dude. I was better at running cross country than I ever thought I would be. Okay. And I ran a race one time in Angel Camp, which is a foothill city, a lot of rolling hills and stuff. It's one of those cross country meets that everyone hates to go to because all the other ones in California are flat, and this one is legitimate uphill dirt hills and stuff. Mm-hmm. Mountains basically. And at that race, I beat everybody on my team. I was JV, and I beat all the varsity guys, all the real distance runners. And I always attributed it to growing up in Arizona, right? That was the story I told myself. But hiking, going up those hills, I could pass everybody. Anyway, that's not the point of the story. The point of the story is that I realized I wasn't bad at running, and we'd have these meets, and in my category, there was this one guy who was always competing with me. We're always either he was in front of me by a few meters or I was in front of him. But one time I had this race, and it was a 3-mile race, and I was winning. I was in the lead. And that guy, I called him Red because he was this big, tall, white, pasty redhead. And in that meet, I got first place in the JV race, okay? But the anxiety of that guy being behind me and chasing me down to that finish line, which I stayed ahead of him, but it was so overwhelming. That anxiety was so overwhelming that he was going to catch me and I was going to lose to him. It was almost too much to take, right? It was this really weird moment. Mm-hmm. And after I won, and I was like, yeah, but I felt guilty for that anxiety, right? I don't know why. So then, fast forward, I don't know, however long in the future, a month or whatever, Lodi Lake race, right? Which is a very uneven ground race, goes back into the, deep of the river area and stuff. And so there's a lot of blind areas where, you come around these corners not seeing anyone forever. But we're running across grass, basically, kind of on this little bit of a slope. And it's the same thing. And I'm winning the race with about, I don't know, 3/4 of a mile left. And that guy's behind me again. And now we're in my hometown. This is, home game, basically. And I have so much anxiety. So I hate saying this. I faked an injury. I pretended to twist my ankle.
Wow.
And threw the whole race because I couldn't handle the anxiety of that guy beating me. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
What's really weird is with perspective and looking back, it's just, I chalk it up to just super weird insecurity of a teenager.
Yeah.
But at the time, the shame I felt for doing that, and it took me years to admit that to somebody, because nobody knew, and I was winning, and it was not just like, oh well, you didn't win, big deal. It was, no, you affected the team, because coming in first place is a ton of points.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, man, I don't know. I need to go down that rabbit hole, I think, because it took me years to admit that to somebody. And why the hell would I I'm a pretty competitive person. I don't like losing, but I don't think I like losing enough to just quit.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? Have I ever told you that story?
No, huh? That's the first time I heard that story.
So for those of you out there listening, there's a little insight into me. Yeah, dude, I was so shameful for so long.
I'm sure.
It's still, you could tell, it's still even hard to admit, especially now, because I'm like, dude, pussy move, bro. You know what I mean?
Right. You were talking earlier about the bike, and that totally is, again, one of those things where it just fires off this memory.
Right.
And it's probably a kite string that I never realized, and I'd have to kind of go into that or analyze a little bit. But 3rd grade, I remember. Boy, it was Miss Jepson, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Nice lady. I still remember a 3rd grade teacher.
Me too.
Love 3rd grade.
Miss Kane.
At Lakewood. Right?
Who?
Miss Jepson. Anyways, we had a
Lakewood.
class pet in the 3rd grade, and it was just, I don't know. You know how old you are in the 3rd grade, but in those and from that perspective, it was a 12-foot long boa constrictor. But it was probably more like 6 feet or something. Yeah, It was just a pet snake. And he took turns and stuff throughout the weeks and months and so on. Everyone that wanted to was able to hold it at their desk for a little bit while you're, sitting there in class and so on.
Right.
And he would climb in through your desk and in your pockets and stuff.
Right.
Anyways, another teasing trauma. Maybe that's it. But
whoa, dude.
The class was kind of around the tank, you know, that the snake was in most of the time. I think the teacher was feeding it or something, if I remember right. And we're all sitting there, and I'm not sure why or how or who said it, but Mom and Dad had just bought me. I needed shoes, and they just had bought me these Jordache. They were Jordache shoes, right,
dude? Okay, keep
you
going.
Remember that name?
Oh, hell yeah.
Of course. And they had the Velcro across the top, like the Jordans of
like
the
Buster
day
Brown's,
and stuff.
dude.
Yeah, And one of the kids, one of the kids, I don't know who or why, but they're like, "Hey, Eric, why don't you let him eat your Jordache shoes?" And everyone just started laughing.
Was it a dig, or was it just him like,
I don't know.
Did he just pick you?
It seemed like a dig, I guess, I don't know.
So what happened? Sorry, keep going.
That's all I remember of the story. That's all I remember of the memory.
Oh, dude. I keep laughing at all your. But that gave you a complex?
Yeah, you're just a big bully. I don't know if it did. I can't say it has, but I remember it being a very impactful situation for me.
That's crazy, bro. That would have that memory.
I don't know what that kite string's tied to on the other end yet.
I got a shoe story that's hilarious. You already know this one, right?
Do I?
Dude, because I got made fun of. Again. Oh, wow. Whew, we're connecting all kinds of little dots here. Played high school basketball a year, right? We didn't have money. I only made the basketball team because I had come off across country, and I went in the tryouts for basketball. You have to run a mile under a certain amount of time, and I smoked everybody, obviously, because I was so in shape. Anyway, made the basketball team, but the shoes I had were just beat up white Puma high tops. Okay?
The Pumas.
Beat up, dude. Like almost to the point of having holes in them. So that's what I'm playing. That's what I'm practicing in. Every other player on the team has some pair of black shoes, and I'm here with these dopey white shoes. And I remember my coach one time saying, "Well, you should get yourself, we couldn't afford shoes or whatever." Mm-hmm. I played the first handful of games with them white beat ass shoes, right? super skinny kid, and I got made fun of mostly by people I knew.
Right.
Like I remember, I think mom or dad said something like, "Look over on the bench, and there's one guy over there with white shoes on. It's you." And I was so like, dude, this blows. But I had no other choice. And my good friend Mike Demetris was on the team too. And one day, we're at practice, and we're getting in the locker room changing, and there wasn't many people around, I don't think. But he goes, "Hey, man," and he pulls out a pair of older shoes that were still like 90%. It's like the contrast of your.
Right.
I'm wearing a pair of Eric's old shoes that are like in better shape than any of my shoes. Does that same thing. He pulls out a pair of used Nikes that
Maybe
are
that's
black.
where I get my shoe fascination from, was from that incident I just told you about. The
Probably
shoes.
because you got a thing with shoes, and that might be why.
Maybe.
They were-
Probably.
Probably.
More than likely.
Yeah.
Really.
That's what I'm saying. Connecting
Cool.
the dots. I was so embarrassed, but when he gave me those, I was like, dude, I feel. And when you're a teenager, yeah, that stuff's rough, dude.
Oh, yeah, you're going through so much as a teenager, emotionally, physically.
Yeah. Do you know how
Turmoil.
traumatizing it is? One time in high school, I had this pair of black shorts I really liked, and they had vertical stripes. I think I was a sophomore. And I had this shirt I really liked that was yellow and gray.
Horizontal stripes,
With
right?
horizontal stripes.
I knew this was coming.
I went to school one day with that, and all it took was a girl saying, "You know, you don't wear horizontal vertical stripes together." Never even thinking of it. All I thought was, I like these shorts. I like this shirt.
Right.
Of course they go together because I like them.
Fair
But I
enough.
was so embarrassed, dude. I mean, she said it. No one else said anything, but just her saying it made me so self-conscious.
You know what I was embarrassed of?
What?
When I got arrested dressed as a pimp.
You weren't embarrassed.
And that's pretty embarrassing.
But were you embarrassed? Or
I
did you own
remember.
it?
I'm sure I was embarrassed.
People are like, what, you just walking around dressed like a pimp?
No, I mean, it was Halloween,
Halloween, right.
so it didn't matter.
Yeah, man. What'd you get arrested for?
That's a whole story in and of itself.
Fight?
No.
You got to fight in a pimp
No,
suit?
no.
Did you pimp slap somebody? What'd you do?
Oh, that's funny.
Tell the story then.
It was can't remember if it was Halloween or their nearby weekend. Our buddy Matt was having a party at his parents' house, who were out of town at the time, I believe. And supposedly they were fully aware that we were having a party there and stuff. And I can't remember how old I was now.
You had to be driving age, right?
Well, yeah, at least. But I'm trying to remember if I was 21 yet or under. Anyways, guess it doesn't matter. We had been there hanging out, not a huge party or anything, but there had been drinking and so on. We're just hanging out, having a good time. Nothing too rambunctious or anything. And anyways, it's Halloween. I'm dressed as a pimp. This white slacks on, this gold chain, no shirt, and this tiny-ass fur jacket that's like a belly jacket almost, if you will. And a gold cane and so on. And anyways, Josh, my old buddy, was dressed as my hooker. So he's got a wig on, a mini skirt,
Yeah.
a thong, and the whole nine, fishnets, whole nine. Anyways, I think it was my buddy's cousin or somehow some family member of some sort, not an immediate, brother, sister, but
Right.
had come like throwing a fit, telling everyone we needed to get out and yada yada. And like, no one's leaving. There's been, some drinking, yada yada. And plus they supposedly, the parents knew and were
Right.
fine with it. So we're like, no. Anyways, he just kept freaking out, threatening to call the cops and all this kind of stuff or whatever. So another friend was like, well, let's just go to my house, no big deal. And they lived in Farmington at the time. And one of my friends was clearly too drunk to drive their car home. Mm-hmm. And I had a few beers, but felt fine or whatever. I remember it being Halloween night where it was a
Dark Halloween night.
dark Halloween night, misty.
Was there
No,
a-
it was misty. It was, you're iced over
yeah,
a little bit on your
yeah.
windshields. The frost is out.
Yeah. Cold.
That time of the year. And anyways, so I'm looking through this tiny little scraped hole and a little scraped hole in the rear view, in the back window. But, so I drove in the car to the house, and the gentleman who had kicked us out had followed me. I don't
Why?
Why me? I don't know. When there was a bunch of cars, but maybe I was just the unlucky one. Followed me and called in the sheriff's while following me to the house. And I was driving fine. There's nothing wrong with it or whatever with my driving, but get all the way down from Layton all the way to Farmington, down the highway, so on and so forth. Get all the way to the house. I pull into the driveway of the house, and that's when the dude comes right there and starts flashing his lights.
The cop? Mm-hmm. Oh, man.
And then, had to get a field sobriety test and
Dressed in a
slippers,
pimp suit?
dressed in a pimp suit in the freezing ass cold,
Did you pass?
of the night.
Did you pass? Did you get a DUI?
I don't honestly
Well, you got
remember.
arrested.
They ended up arresting me and taking me down there.
Where's your mugshot?
Oh, I don't know. It's probably online
Did
somewhere.
you have the
I'm
vest
sure.
on when you took the mugshot?
No, by then they give you white shirt or whatever
Oh,
it is, I
yeah,
think.
to put on.
I wish. I'd have
That'd be
I'd have that
awesome,
bitch
dude.
mounted somewhere.
Yeah, like printed on like like a big poster or something of it. Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, that's a little sketch. Cops are scary. Sometimes,
Well, they hold that position of power.
Yeah, man.
That's the scary
because they
part.
can
is all.
fuck with you.
Well, if they want.
Dude, what's the longest you ever driven on expired registration?
No, that's just not my style, so don't ask me.
Come on,
'Cause
when
it
you were
probably-
younger?
No, I don't think I ever did. That I can remember. I remember driving for a while on an expired temporary tag.
Oh.
They
then
used to be
this
so
story's no
easy
fun.
too because they used to be just the paper with the marker,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would just turn the
Yeah.
23 into a 28,
Yeah.
and get whatever.
A year.
Yeah, no, that's
One time when I was young and crazy and broke as a joke, I went a year.
that's a long time. It's a lot of anxiety driving around.
Yeah, you're telling me,
Is
bro.
what it is.
You're telling me. I mean, I remember like the closest calls, like having a cop right behind me
yeah.
going, I am fucked, and not having nothing happen. Yeah, that would hit a year, and I was like, what's funny is I think I got to 9 months and went, but I can make it a year.
See, haven't everybody had one of those experiences? Is that probably why you know how it is? You're out on the road, you're not doing anything, you're just driving down the road, but you see a cop and something happens physiologically.
Oh, yeah,
to
no,
you.
I've been pulled over for driving too slow because I had a cop behind me. Oh, no. Yeah, I was on like a city street downtown in Salt Lake going to Bountiful, and middle of the day, and I'm doing, it's 25 miles an hour, and there's a cop behind me, and I become so obsessed with the cop behind me that I'm starting to increase my speed a little bit, and he pulls me over, and he's like, why were you speeding up? And I'm like, well, because you're right on my ass, like, you know what I'm saying? They get so close to you.
Well, it's because he's reading your plates, bro.
Yeah, but still, he's just waiting for me to screw up, and I did.
Well, it seems like, you get that nervous energy or that angst, even though there's really no reason you should be,
I know.
as long as you're not
I know.
obviously speeding,
Well,
or doing something wrong.
Yeah, the 2 kilos of coke in the trunk didn't help. Just kidding.
Never does.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. You get that weird anxiety, and then you weren't with us the time I got pulled over for driving too slow on the freeway.
No.
At night. There's a story. There's a story. Should I tell it? I'm gonna have to tell it. If people want to know our stories, here's another one. Just got into doing paranormal investigating, and we had heard about this cave up in Farmington Canyon. You ever been there to that cave? Mm-hmm. That old mine shaft?
Yeah.
We went up there to do a recording. We had on our headlamps. We had on our nifty little lanyard badges that said Insight Paranormal. And we go there, and I think it's me, Bill,
I think Jason.
and just Jason,
right?
the three of us. Mm-hmm. And we, it's so funny. So we go up there, do our thing. We're leaving, and we're up in the mountains there, and we're like, well, what do 3 20-something-year-olds do now? Oh, okay, get high. So we got high, okay? Then proceeded to get in the car and drive towards, I think, Bountiful. We were heading towards Bountiful, but we got on the freeway right there in Farmington, coming out of the canyon there. And and I'm going along, and I see, and Jason says, he's in the back seat, and he says, Sheriff sheriff's pulling out. He's coming on the on-ramp, and we're going by the freeway, and he's coming on the on-ramp, and Jason calls it out, which he should have never done because I would not notice. I'm high, and one of the tendencies if you drive high is you tend to drive, for unexperienced people, you drive slower. That's a thing they look for sometimes. So I'm doing 60 on the freeway. It's way late at night. Davis County Sheriff pulls me over. He's like, what I didn't realize at the time is my car was overheating, right? And when he pulled up to the window, when he walked away from the window for the first time, I noticed steam coming off the engine.
Do you remember his name?
The sheriff? Mm-hmm. Actually, no, I don't remember his name. Why? Did someone tell you something?
No, I think I vaguely remember this story once a long time ago when you did have a mental record of what the guy's name may have been or looked like, and I think we related it to my buddy's dad,
he ended up being a cool. Oh, I wonder. Yeah, that's right. He ended up being a cool guy, but so I'm pretty high. Bill's high, Jason's high, and this is so unlike me. Again, this is years ago. So whatever. I'm not making any excuses. The weed was mine, which was really rare. I just happened to get some from a guy I worked with, which I never that's not I'm the mooch, right? For the most part. But so, and I tell Jason it's just right there in the back. So he's going to try to stash it, and the officer asks, if we've got anything or whatever, and I just went, there's some in the back. It's mine. It's been in there forever. Right. So he has me step out of the car, and I can't now see, I've told this story so many times. I don't know if this is Bill's story or mine, but I've got a headlamp on and I don't realize it. It's not turned on, but it's just resting on my head.
Oh, right.
And I've got my Insight Paranormal badge, and I'm standing on the backside of the car. I remember it was freezing that night, and he's like, "What's with the headlamp?" And I'm going, "Oh, I'm part of a paranormal group, Insight Paranormal." And he goes, I'll never forget, he goes, "Paranormal what, a hoodoo?" That's exactly what he said. And I'm like, ghost investigating. And he's like, all right. And he got everyone, we all had the last name Spencer, right? When we handed the license. And anyway, he called Highway Patrol, right, to come out. Mm-hmm. Or was it the other way around? Did Highway Patrol call the sheriff? I can't remember, but I just remember that. Yeah, I think Highway Patrol showed up, and he was super cool. And he's like, "Hey guys, it's their jurisdiction. I got to call them to have you, blah blah blah, do whatever." But he told the officers, he's like, they fessed up. They told me it was there, so whatever. And we're freezing, and he's having to stand by the. He's like, "Here's a little trick: you stand up by the front tire of his cruiser, or not of his Explorer, right, where the heat's kicking off the engine." And we're sitting there talking, and I'm pretty high, right? And we're just kind of sitting there, and we're talking to the Davis County Sheriff while the car is being searched by the Highway Patrol. Mm. So we're there for a good 10-15 minutes, and a train starts rolling by, and it's nothing but those big black train cars that say corn syrup on them, right? Mm-hmm. And I started to tell, I kind of forgot that the officer was there, and I started to tell Jason and Bill this story of how my friend Kevin swears that there's not corn syrup in those things, right? That it's all a government conspiracy, and they're moving these highly toxic chemicals and then sometimes people in these corn syrup things, right? So I'm telling this story, and I'm telling it a little high, and Bill and Jason are looking at me like, "What are you doing?" And I realized, because he's just off to my right, the sheriff's deputy is just standing right there listening, and I'm telling this high story, and I don't know. The point is, I got pulled over for driving too slow. So,
well, there you go.
Don't smoke and drive, kids.
It's bad for you.
Was that too honest?
No, that's okay. Isn't that what it's about?
Yeah, I told my story about faking an injury. Can't get worse than that.
No, it really can't. You should feel shame for that one.
I feel like I lost a little bit of your respect, and then I feel like when this bonus podcast goes up, I'm gonna I'll be in the middle of the day and feel every time someone hears that story, I'll feel a little less,
Well, at least I didn't fake an injury.
Myself. Yeah,
that's gonna be my punchline from now on.
Yeah, for sure. Throw the fight. I took a dive. That's essentially what I did. I took a dive for no other reason than my anxiety, which yeah, it must be something, because that's, anxiety. It's like Paris was saying about, it's not really depression a lot of times, but anxiety. It's when he has hard, and you mirrored that, which I think most people can relate to.
Yeah.
Because it can be debilitating. Anxiety can.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Tell us another story, Eric. See how different it is? We're sitting here, I'm trying to have you tell me a story. We can't come up with nothing. I can't think of nothing. Then finally we start telling stories, and it just keeps going. Mm-hmm. So people are learning a lot about us. I'm trying to think of a story about you.
Well, let's see what you got, because I got one about you.
My buddy?
My buddy?
Was that you or Jason?
No, that was me.
The My Buddy doll?
That's part of the problem why you won't be able to, because our age gap and you being older, you're not looking at your
My
little brother
buddy.
going...
Oh, I got a story about you. It's a cute
Good
little
stuff.
baby brother story. You ready? You had that My Buddy doll.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was you, right? Not Jason?
Yeah.
That thing was like your size.
Yeah,
If
I was
anybody remember-
little.
My buddy and me, right?
Yeah.
It was a life-size doll that Eric used to tote around everywhere. I remember Bill telling a story one time we spent the night, and he got out of the bed and stepped on it and thought it was you and freaked out. But you used to sleep on a bottom bunk, right? Because the three of us always shared a room, 2 bunk beds and then a single bed. Mm-hmm. And I swear, I remember most times Jason had the single bed most of the time.
See, I remember Jason always having the top bunk.
Oh, no, I was
But maybe
top
that's
bunk
just
king.
when I was with him.
Yeah,
just
probably.
the two of us.
Yeah. Anyway, one night we're laying there, and I was like, maybe I was reaching down towards the bed where your doll was, and I was like, I'm gonna get your buddy. And you could talk, but you mispronounce words when you're a kid.
Yeah.
And this is how you would say, you better not. I'd say, I'm gonna get your doll, and you'd be like, you better not. But this is how you would say it. You be not. You be not. No, Jamie, you be not. Right? So there you go. There's a story I remember about you.
That's funny. That's funny. Mine's not so pleasant.
Yeah, I figured it wasn't going to be.
Sorry about
Hey,
that.
no, dude. You can't do that. You can't do that.
Don't worry about it.
Hit me with it.
Just because I remember my perspective of it, and so getting your perspective of it being your story would be better.
What?
The time you hit the kid with the car.
Oh. Yeah, dude.
I remember that.
Ooh, you remember that? Mm-hmm. How?
I remember you coming home, from my memory at least, I remember you coming home from it happening and telling Mom and Dad, and I think it just overheard or something.
Oh, that's a rough story. That was probably one of the only times, well, not the only times, but the first time I really
From my
noticed.
perspective, being a little kid,
Yeah.
it seemed like it messed with you pretty good for a while.
It did.
If I remember correctly to what I remember
See,
feeling
but that's
and
what's
seeing.
funny. How would you have known that? Maybe I've told this story 10 years ago, and your memory has added in how much of effect it had on me.
Maybe. I don't feel like it, but maybe.
You feel like in the moment. So basically, here's the story. It fucked with me for a little while. I was 16, and I had my license. I don't know. No, I was 17. I was getting my license when I was 17, but I'd had it for a while, and we had this horribly ugly. The Regal Beagle was a Buick Regal. It was a station wagon.
Forget hiding the bike in the bush. You can't hide
Yeah,
that
you
one
can't
in the
hide the
bush.
car now, dude. But when you can drive and you're 16, you don't give a shit.
No.
It was a grocery getter. It was blue with wood paneling. It was horrible. Anyway, we called it the Regal Beagle. So I'm coming home, and I'm with Darren, and Darren's coming over, and he's riding shotgun, and we're just down the street, toward
Around the corner.
at the end, not on the main road, but
No.
coming in the back way, and I'm driving along, and I'm doing the speed limit, but and to this day it changes how I drive through neighborhoods for sure. I remember I'm driving along, and there was a big truck parked on the side of the street, and it was parked right in front, right as you're coming to pass by the driveway of the home.
Right.
It's not in front of the driveway, but it's right before the
Right.
driveway. And I don't see him, but there's a kid on the bike, and it's a slanted driveway, right, a hill driveway. And he comes flying out from behind that truck. And I remember seeing the wheels right at the last second from underneath the bumper
Right.
it was a pretty high-rise truck. I hit the brakes and jerk to the left, which everything was in slow motion.
Sure.
So this was the first times I've really experienced that to the nth degree. I turned just enough, and he hits the very front side of the car.
Right.
And he slides up. I still remember seeing his face. This kid had to have been like 8 years old or something, 8 or 9 years old. He comes sliding, because it's a station wagon, so there's a lot of hood.
Yeah.
He comes sliding up the hood, passenger side, and his head slams into the windshield, right where Darren's at, and puts a big a spherical dent breaks the windshield,
right.
Cracks the windshield, and in my peripheral, because I'm trying to stop, I just see it on my peripheral him going up and over. So he hits the windshield and just kind of goes off to the side. Everything slows down. Mm-hmm. The first noise I hear, I remember hearing Darren say, "Oh my God," or "Oh," something. And the next sound I hear is the sound of a mother screaming at the top of her lungs from my left, coming, and I see her come running out. And I remember I'm not looking at her. I'm just seeing all this out of my peripheral. Mm-hmm. And Darren starts going, "What do we do? What do we do?" And before we're even out of the car, I turn and say, "Go get my dad." So he jumps out of the car and runs home. Right? And luckily, the fire department for
right
Woodbridge
there.
is right around the corner. So I get out of the car, and I remember I'm just in shock. This kid's laying on the ground. His mother's over him screaming.
Is he conscious?
Yeah, he's awake. He's trying to sit up. That's the first sign of him, and they're trying to keep him from sitting up. His kids are resilient as motherfuckers. So, but his mother is just screaming at the top of her lungs, "Oh my God, oh my God," like that, because she saw the whole thing happen. Fire truck pulls up. I don't even remember the time frame. At some point, Dad's down there, right? And I don't even really have clear memories after the hitting the kid. I just remember sitting on the curb. I remember the fire department being there, them checking him out, which there's no question that kid had some serious CTE. He probably grew up and started killing things or something like that, right?
Maybe.
Dude, there's no way he didn't have some traumatic brain injury from that. He had forehead, which is, I guess, the best place to hit, they say, is with your forehead.
A concussion for sure.
Concussion for sure. I mean, I'm saying there was some sort of brain injury. Anytime, even if you slosh your head hard enough on a roller coaster, that's brain damage. I remember the fire department being there. They checked him out. They didn't take him anywhere. They didn't take him to the hospital or anything like that. And I remember a sheriff came too. And the sheriff measured out the skid marks or whatever, and I'm just freaking out the whole time. And I remember I was, like I said, 17, and I think Darren was coming over because we were planning on going up to Sacramento to go to a church dance that night. And the sheriff told me, or he told Dad, he said it wasn't his fault. It's a no at fault accident. It doesn't appear he was speeding. And he did everything he could to avoid hitting the kid. In fact, if I hadn't have jerked the wheel, I probably just would have went over him.
Yeah.
And so, but I remember feeling so horrible.
I got a memory that this kid wasn't wearing a bike helmet.
He was
and
not wearing a bike
bought him
helmet.
one and took him one afterwards.
Yeah, a few days later. So there's something that leads up to that. That's so weird because in my memory, I couldn't remember if I actually gave him a bike helmet. It just sounded like what I would have. But I went to this dance, which I was really looking forward to because it was a big dance. It wasn't one of the simple ones. And all my friends were growing up and stuff. And so I went. And we didn't ever go to Sacramento for dances. And I remember being there and just feeling like I was still in this weird dream state. Like I was still in shock, I think,
sure.
really.
Absolutely.
And I can barely remember anything. I just remember kind of being in the hallway of the church and just kind of, what am I doing? And some girl came up to me that I knew and was like, and I told her what had happened. I think I started to cry. I didn't cry, like that, but I think I started to cry at that dance. Anyway, a couple days later, it was messing with me. And I don't know if, I feel like it was Dad that went with me, but it doesn't seem like it would have been Dad that took me down there. But maybe it was. I don't know. I don't know if I had said something to Mom or Dad or if they just inherently realized what was going on. But I remember one of them suggesting that to go see him, to go bring him a gift or something. And yeah, in my memory, it was a bike helmet, which now kind of seems like a dick ass thing to go buy a kid. You just hey, wear a helmet next time, you know. But I think I remember it was really awkward. What I was really felt awkward with was his mom.
Yeah.
Right, and she never said. What was weird. We didn't know this family or anything, even though they were just down the street from us. But she never. I remember what really messed with me after going to see if he was okay, and the kid was okay. He was like, "Yeah, no, I'm good. Oh, hey, thanks," and blah blah blah. And the mom never said anything. She never said it's okay.
Did she ever like blame you out verbally?
I don't remember her ever. She might have screamed something that day or something. But I remember leaving there thinking I was pretty visibly upset. I may have been at some point started to cry there too because it was really upsetting to me. And as I almost killed somebody. That's all I kept thinking for days. I almost killed somebody. Some little kid. I almost killed somebody. I need to ask Darren about that. See how much of that he remembers. But anyway, I remember being affected by the fact that it sounds horrible to say, but I felt like the kid was okay. I felt like, as a mother, she should have told me it was okay.
I think so.
You know what I mean? And the fact that she didn't really mess with me. Because it's a mom. And you know what it's like to have a mom. And you know what it's like to disappoint your mom. And you want your mom to tell you everything's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. You know, but she didn't tell me everything was going to be okay. And it messed with me for a good while. And ever since then, I'm terrified. When I see a big truck parked somewhere, I'm always paying attention under the bumper as much as I can.
Did you not drive for a while immediately afterwards?
No, I didn't. I remember when we left the scene and the fire trucks had left and we were coming down our road and Dad started to speed up. And I'm like, what's he doing? And then he told me to hold on and he slammed on the brakes because he wanted to test the brakes. He wanted to see if he felt like the brakes were responding. You know what's weird is I can't remember much of anything except the incident. I don't remember what anyone said to me. I don't know. I don't remember what. I didn't drive for a while.
I think that is the memory part of it. You remember pretty well up until right after the incident.
Yeah,
is because of the slow motion.
Yeah.
You experienced.
Yeah.
Which is a thing that
it's a real thing. Your frame
see
rate starts increasing. It grabs more information.
Yeah, in those types of situations.
That happens to cops all the time.
Oh, I bet
in high-speed chases.
Yeah, for sure.
What they say happens, which is really interesting, is that
like
when your
vision.
adrenaline's kicking, your peripheral vision will go black and white.
Yeah.
Because in that moment, your brain knows that it needs to process only a little bit of information from out there. But it's still, and it makes it heighten. It goes black and white, which, think of a cop speeding through an intersection chasing someone. That's got to be more responsive. It's color. It's more data the brain has to process. And essentially what's happening, the reason it seems like slow motion is because your eyes basically work at 30 frames per second, right? When you get in one of those heightened adrenaline states, they say it gets up to like 60 frames per second. So you're processing more data than you're used to in the same amount of time. So to your brain, it appears like things have slowed down.
Right.
Yeah, crazy. But yeah, that's a weird that you brought. Why'd you remember that story?
Remember what?
Well, you brought up that story.
It's just one that stuck with me from what I remember as a kid. I used to tell it a lot to friends, I think, or something,
Really?
And so it always kind of stuck with me.
Yeah, it definitely traumatized me. That's weird. I haven't thought about that for a long time.
Well, you're welcome.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing because I don't know. I've had people like rear end me. Well, I was rear-ended once on the freeway. Not a bad rear end, and I had this Isuzu Trooper with a big ass tire on the back, and so
I remember that thing.
Fucked his car up, and then we were on the freeway, and I had to get to work, and he's like, "Whoa," I'm like, "You're good." Didn't tell me. I'm out of here. But what's weird is like I've never been in an accident. Right?
Knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood. But what I kind of attribute it to that. I'm not saying I'm a superintendent. People say I'm a horrible driver, right? But I've never been in an accident. And all those people that call me a horrible driver, Bill, has been in more accidents than,
Yeah.
what have you. So, but whatever. So yeah, I think it affected me pretty bad for a while. I didn't drive for a while, that's for sure. Just uneasy behind the wheel.
Sorry to bring it up.
No, it's cool. It's a cool story to remember. The life you live in the neighborhood you grow up in. Mm-hmm. Even if you only been there a few years.
As you were telling the story, I can so clearly put myself back in that neighborhood and walk down every street and the fire station and the backside with the fence of the fire station. And
weird to me because you were so young there.
Mm-hmm. Walking down to my buddy's house, the next neighborhood over, Josh's house.
The fire station was down and up in this little kick around. Yeah.
And Aaron lived right by the fire station. Old friend Aaron.
Yeah.
I remember he lived there.
Dude.
Crazy.
The stuff you do in the neighborhood, you know, when the cop showed up because I was wearing Jenny's underwear and bra out on the street corner. Mm-hmm. Remember that story? Do you remember that story? 8th grade graduation. Me and Nate and the guys were out on the street, and I had put on nylons on my face. And I had shorts on, but I took a pair of Jenny's underwear and put them around my shorts and then put a bra on, and I had my graduation robe. And I was standing out there on the corner, and as cars would come by, I'd be like, someone called the cops, right? Whatever, however old you are when you're in 8th grade. But all of a sudden, a cop car pulls out from the block down, and Nate goes, cops! So we all start booking it. I'm stripping stuff off as we go, run in the house. Sure enough, knock on the door. Here, cops come out. I start telling, someone reported that you were exposing yourself.
Oh, God.
And we just started laughing, right? And I'm like, no, I had shorts on. I just had these on, whatever. There's 2 cops. One cop's asking me the questions. The other cop's laughing so damn hard that everybody wants to start laughing, right? Mm-hmm. And the other cop starts giggling and stuff, and he's like, okay, whatever. But just the dumb stuff you do, in your neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Do you have any dumb stuff you did in your neighborhood stories?
I did lots of dumb things. They're probably a little more
illegal,
destructive,
vandalistic. Yeah,
but yeah.
Well, like what? You got anything special?
Plenty of dumb stories.
Graffiti stories?
No, never did get into the graffiti thing.
I was a good kid, dude.
Got into the couch riding and this shopping cart, ghost
I
cart
never did any
riding.
of that. Nope, never did any of that.
Snowman tipping. That shit was a lot of fun. Sorry if your snowman ever ended up down in the morning.
In Woodbridge?
We probably did it. No, this was here.
Oh, here. Yeah. Oh, yeah. See, that's when you were trouble time.
Yeah, this was my adolescence was here.
So, we were talking about this the other day. Legit, where did you get the idea for the Christmas tree thing?
Can't say I know for sure.
I had never heard of that.
I think it's just one of those things, wasn't it?
Is it?
That kind of...
We just came about it organically because we were out tooling around. What we're talking about here is which I'm watch. People are going to comment and say, yeah, we did that too.
Yeah, probably.
I thought we were the gods of it. My buddy Chad had this big full-size van. Dude, that thing literally had 2 feet of trash in the back. Like you would just throw your wrappers or your cups back there. It was disgusting. And the back seat was broken, so it didn't lock in the front. So the whole bench seat would, if you took off fast enough, you would tip backwards. Anyway, after Christmas, everyone puts their damn trees out on the street. Mm-hmm. So we got this crazy idea how funny it'd be to go grab a Christmas tree and put it on someone's doorstep. And
did you move the Christmas tree?
Yeah.
Why? Why not just put it on the doorstep of the dude who left it? Why take it somewhere else?
Because that's what I'm saying we did. We did it once like that, right? And then we thought, we got this big-ass van. We turned into the ninja assassins of picking up Christmas trees on the run, jumping out of the van as it's still rolling, grabbing trees off the street and throwing them up to a guy in the van as he's pulling them in so we could load that van up with as many Christmas trees as possible, then go to a friend's house or someone that we knew's house and quietly put all the Christmas trees on their doorstep. So when they opened their door, they could not get out. And that's what Jim was talking about the other day. He was the first one we decided to do it to when we thought, and it was a sign, 2 of us out, 2 of us in, 1 driver throwing trees in. Let's go, come on. Picking up trees all around the city. We go to Jim's house and we're piling them on the doors. And somehow that little ninja rabbit, we're only halfway up. And his door flies open and it's him. And he's like, what are you doing? He comes jumping over the trees and we're like, we're all laughing. And we're like, dude, he's like, it's pretty good. And then he jumped in the van with us and we started doing it to other people we knew. Like,
so you guys, our the version I remember was just tiny, slightly different. I didn't like that. Sounds like a lot of work,
dude.
To prank somebody. But
fun
you just
prank.
lean the Christmas tree up on the door,
Oh.
so when they open it, it falls in on them
That's a good idea too. Yeah.
from the trunk, because it's
Yeah.
all off balance. You just lean it up.
No, we would go full bore.
Especially if they had a screen door, because a pneumatic one that helps push the tree
yeah,
in
yeah.
as the door opens.
That's funny. Did you ever witness anyone opening their door?
Oh yeah, plenty of times. We would hide around the corner.
Would you ring the doorbell?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Knock or ring the doorbell real quick.
Okay, we're just talking about two different styles of Christmas treeing.
Yeah.
Words get in the way, dude. See? I just assumed that's how you guys did it too. You just piled up Christmas trees on people's porches.
That's why I was like, why would you not just use the guy's tree in front of his house?
Oh man, we went all out on my girlfriend's mom's house, who was, a lady in the ward who was active with the youth. So it was like, we knew she'd be a good sport about it, dude. But she had a full front porch, and we littered that thing with trees, dude. We probably put 25 trees on her porch. Is that a dick move?
Yeah.
Oh, I know Mary listens to the podcast.
Yeah,
So Mary, I don't know if you remember when we did that. We Christmas treed your house.
Sorry.
Sorry. I don't even think you were there. Your mom was just there, but
I think I just had a memory of, and I could be way off, so I'll have to ask Mom. If you listen to this, Mom, answer it later. I think I have a memory. I can't remember if I was with Josh, my old buddy, or something, but I have a memory of Mom actually taking us to the store to buy toilet paper houses.
oh really?
I'm pretty sure.
Dude,
We used to toilet paper in a lot of houses.
I never, once or twice.
Oh, we were pros at it.
I never went. For some reason, I never. I guess maybe there's friends
There's just
I had.
different phases for different
Time
ages
frames?
and time frames.
I never did real. I think once I. You did it all the time.
We did it quite a few times.
Yeah, dude. I don't ever remember toilet paper in someone's house. I remember getting caught one time toilet paper in someone's house. That's all I remember. Lights come on. That's funny. That's the thing. It's like
Kids are messed up.
No, kids are messed
I
up.
could tell some stories that would scare some parents out there.
Oh no, for sure. And parents don't want to know those stories.
No.
Because we all know. We all lived them.
Yeah.
But that's one thing I kind of miss. I don't know if I miss it, but I used to be a class clown, right? And I wasn't afraid to embarrass myself, to embarrass the shit out of people I was with, because I thought that was pure comedy. And that's like, Mom will still tell the story. Me and Nate were there. We were at Walmart with her, and I think there was maybe Jenny was there or something, whatever. But at some point, I took a bikini, or no, a set of lingerie that was a top and some, bra and some panties that were connected together, and I hooked them on the back of Mom's hoodie in Walmart. She fucking walked around that store for 45 minutes with that stuff hanging on her, with people giggling and laughing. Me and Nate being behind her a good deal, cracking up. So funny. But like,
And you call this one your favorite?
but doing dumb stuff like that, I think as adults, it's like what you said the other day. We're pushing the comfort zones,
Right.
lay on the ground in a train station for 30 seconds to see how people react. It's that same kind of thing. I think we lose that. Like as a teenager,
It's just like anything with extreme sports or holding a snake. You don't have any of those fears yet of any of it. So
Yeah.
you're open to it.
what are you talking about? You feared holding a snake all your life.
No.
You're terrified of snakes, bro.
I hate snakes, but I used to hold the one in third grade, no problem. It didn't bother me at all.
Yeah,
The one I
but-
was talking about.
Not anymore. You don't hold snakes.
Not because of the shoe thing.
Yeah, you think?
No.
No?
That's too, no.
Maybe.
Snakes are just freaky. You just
I'll never
develop these
forget
phobias and
the
fears.
first time we saw a snake, a big old bull snake rolling through camp in the desert. Do you remember? I don't think I've ever told you the story, but this is how I tell the story. That snake's rolling into camp and it's big, and we're all, oh, what? We're all, keeping our distance but getting up on it. And who's the furthest person away from that snake? I turn around and it's you. And you're like, dude, I didn't know at that time you hated snakes.
Yeah, I don't like snakes.
Yeah. that encoded reaction to snakes in your DNA is so powerful, right? And maybe not with some people, but that little park across the street from where I live, I'll walk Jack's over there. And in summertime here, some garter snake nest or something, because there's been garter snakes in that grass numerous times, and I go over there and walk him. So the first time I saw one, he was hopping along and he jumped over it, and it moved, and he didn't see it, but it startled me.
I think the real reason I don't like snakes.
Why?
I just decided the same reason, not that I am scared.
It's evolutionary, bro.
Well, that too, but not that I'm scared of a mouse, but mouse scare me because they are ninjas and they're just there all of a sudden, right? The surprise element of the animal.
That's the surprise element of the snake.
Exactly.
That's what I was going to say. I saw another snake and I was looking for snakes going, okay, don't step on one. Don't get scared by one. And then one moved and it scared the shit out of me. The next time I went to the park, it was just a goddamn stick that I stepped over, but I flinched like a crazy person, you know, like, oh, you know, it's this windy stick, you know? So yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I don't know, but all those fears that we were
fear.
saying, like, same with like snowboarding extreme sports. I remember when I was, little, I had no fear of doing crazy tricks and hitting crazy obstacles and crazy big jumps.
Yeah. Exactly.
And somehow that, fear over the years and that just stacks up and you become, and some people don't. That's why you got the Shaun Whites and the, who just did it so much when they're little.
I know.
That by the time that fear could
I've never been that way though.
grow.
I've always been envious of people like that.
Oh,
Like, dude,
yeah, for sure.
Like your level of ability to do something on a skateboard far surpassed anywhere I ever got because I was always afraid of hurting myself. I'm such a pussy, dude. What happened to me as a child? Dude, I'm seriously like get hurt averse. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
But I've snowboarded.
But you faked an injury too, so.
Oh man. Wait, we didn't talk. Oh yeah, that was this podcast.
I don't think it was.
No, it was.
Was it?
Yeah, I opened up about those two stories. That's this recording. Yeah.
That's right.
Why you got to bring it full circle, man?
Isn't that how it always works?
Yeah. So this has been a podcast just about a bunch of random stories about us. You're welcome.
Maybe.
Maybe it's about that. What do you say maybe to?
Just maybe.
Here we go again. Well, that's our bonus podcast.
No, maybe there'll be some more stories. I'm sure there will be plenty more stories.
Yeah. The thing is like for half this conversation, I forgot the mic was on, except for the fact that I'm hearing it in my voice. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's actually that's one of the more enjoyable conversations we've had in front of the mic. But reminiscing is enjoyable. But is it boring to other people?
No, I don't think so.
When you tell your stories, I find them entertaining.
I'm sure. Most people love storytelling. It's lasted through the ages.
Yeah.
Since the beginning of time, we've been telling stories.
And you know people that are good at telling stories, right? Have you ever like sat in with a professional storyteller as a kid or anything like that?
No.
At school?
I mean, just, on tape ones and stuff.
One time when I was in elementary school, man, it's so weird. This guy, he was a professional storyteller. He came into the school library and he told a story. And then I think it was some sort of visualization exercise because he had us close our eyes and do this thing, right? But he told this story so well and did this visual kind of, basically he said, all right, close your eyes for a minute and pretend you're looking down at your feet and you have no shoes on and you feel, and you're on grass and you feel the grass between your toes. And as you lift your head up, the grass rolls up a hill, and he kind of walks you through this thing to this point where you're putting your feet in the water and you feel the pebbles under your feet. The way he did it was so efficient, I guess, that it has burned that image in my head my whole life, to the point I've almost used it as a meditation thing sometimes. Like go to your happy place. I go there and visualize there. He painted the picture of deer. I think it was an illustration to show with using words the picture that one can facilitate the creation of in someone else's mind.
Right.
That's why books will never die, dude. Because what you see in your head is sometimes more intricate and detailed than any movie can make. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You paint these stories. I'm not big into reading like nonfiction, but I have read some really good books that just drew me in to this world. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
You think more so?
That's why a lot of people say the book version is always better. I mean, that's
of course.
with most.
Yeah.
Are
you a reader of nonfiction?
No, I never really have. I mean, I'm sure I have when I was younger, of course, but Never been a big nonfiction reader.
Why is that, you think?
I don't know.
Because every time I've read a book that's nonfiction, because I tend towards books that are informational based and stuff like that. But the times that I have read books like that, I've enjoyed it thoroughly. I read a book by Michael Crichton called Airframe, and it was about airplanes.
I probably just need to try. I think it was just a condition thing. Like, I enjoy reading now, but I think I remember hating it as a kid.
I hated reading.
And if I was going to read, it may be something I can use in a way.
Yeah.
You know, information that serves me of any kind.
Yeah. But I think it's a good practice to read all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's a
probably
little
right.
bit of ego doing that. Saying, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Not in you, because I'm the same way. I tend to lean towards, you know, like I said, things that are informational and not necessarily storytelling.
Yeah, and that's just a condition from when I was younger. That's just kind of how I looked at it and just unconsciously brought it, you know. So I probably ought to read. It's like trying new food again that you haven't tried in a while. You know, your taste buds change, your reading taste change, your music taste change.
Something you
So
used
why
to
wouldn't
hate.
I change up my music or my reading taste?
Yeah. That's a good point. Why
Right.
not? Yeah.
Maybe I should.
Do you? It was kind of weird. Is this conversation we've had about telling stories has made me kind of had some realizations, like some weird kind of like little mini, like, oh wow, what if that? Oh, you know, like the Jordache shoes thing and the shoe thing,
Right,
The
right.
shoe fetish you have, right? That's happened quite a bit during this conversation.
Don't call it a fetish, dude.
You have
That's
a
such
shoe
a
fetish,
nasty
bro.
word.
No, that's not. It's just because that's what people think. But fetish is anything. All right, it's obsession. Do you think that, in a lot of ways, I mean, not anything big, but like telling that story about me, you know, taking a dive, it's a little bit healing, right?
I'm sure to some degree, absolutely.
Do you
I would-
think the fact two people sitting here kind of going back and forth like this, talking about stories of their life and kind of maybe connecting some dots, like we referred to, like, go ahead.
it's the same reason we talk about what we talk about already?
No, I know. But do you think that it's an efficient way to connect the dots in
Oh yeah, totally.
but do you think it helps when it's somebody that knows you well and you've shared life and experience together?
I wonder.
Maybe not.
No, because the only thing that's triggered my memories are keywords you're saying in your memories, and it doesn't
Right.
matter who's saying those memories. The keywords, you know, that are going to trigger whatever they trigger, is what's led me to those stories. But that's that's the only other kite string I can say right now.
Right.
That's definitely where it ends, you know, and what it's
Oh,
developed
right,
into
right.
now. Again, more introspection, and we'll find out. But besides the being pants thing we talked about earlier on the other one,
No, it was this one.
wasn't
Yeah.
whatever is the shoe thing. I
Right.
don't know, like and just sharing those stories they can.
Well, like you bringing up the car story hitting
Yeah.
the kid, right? And that kind of triggered some things in me. But I'm just wondering, like, I'm sure it exists out there, but in a way, this is a weird, doing that I could see being a real effective way to kind of learn about yourself in a way that's real, almost a therapeutic way. It's almost like this could almost be a form of therapy, so to speak. Because I found some of those silly stories we just told very cathartic.
I'm sure it's a quite, I would think maybe common practice of like a psychiatrist or whatever. They always want you to get to your past, so they do things, keywords and so on that help trigger.
Yeah, but you know what
Memory.
that's missing is the feedback of the other stories.
Yes, for sure.
That's what's real powerful about it. Because when you were telling your shoe story, I felt your embarrassment
Right.
and immediately related it to my shoe story. Right? And honestly, I haven't thought of that in years either. And so your sharing of that story triggered it in me. That's kind of that weird cathartic process. It's like it's a little bit quicker that way than sitting in a therapist and just being you're the only one that's telling your story.
Kind of fun.
Maybe you can grow up to be that, dude.
Grow up. I'm growing up.
No. Grow up to your next. We're just a kid. You said we're all just kids.
We are all just
Just
kids.
what do you want to be when you grow up? Be a psychologist, but be the psychologist that tells your stories too. That's your niche
That's my
therapy.
niche.
Yeah. Telling
funny.
you, you'd have people lined up around the block. Yep.
I think that's enough stories for one evening.
I think so too.
Didn't we almost end this a while ago?
Yeah, well, I was about to say And that's the bonus podcast. But then you brought up something that was pretty interesting. And we kind of roll with it for a little bit. But that's how these things go, man. We're not on any kind of time constraints.
Mm-mm.
If you don't want to listen, don't listen. But now that I said that, it's too late because you just listened to the whole podcast.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Good night.
Good night.
Or day.
Or day. Yeah, I don't know when you're listening.